Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook has filed a lawsuit on Thursday claiming U.S. President Donald Trump has no power to remove her from office, setting up a legal battle that could reset long-established norms for the U.S. central bank's independence. Trump had accused Cook of making false statements on mortgage documents, allegations he described as gross negligence and potentially criminal. Cook was appointed in 2022 by former U.S. President Joe Biden and is the first black woman to serve on the central bank's governing body. She is a senior federal policymaker who's had different opinions on certain policy decisions as well. Mr. Mark Sutherland, geopolitical analyst, back with us on the broadcast. Mr. Sutherland, in your perspective, is Donald Trump in for some trouble as far as domestic politics is concerned? He has his platter full as far as international politics and geopolitics is concerned, but domestically, it's one resignation or one firing after the other. How exactly do you think the president is going to manage the scenario back home?
Vika, thank you. The issue is about this particular governor is that it's been raised about the accusations in regard to not filling forms out in regard to the mortgage applications, and this kind of thing really does rattle President Trump, and I'll tell you why. Because the whole essence of the Federal Reserve and the fact that he, within the White House, is turning around and going, I would like to be able to influence that so that it actually begins to look at how it can help the American people quicker and help the mom and pop shops on the street corners. We've had COVID, where the economy and his previous administration was decimated. And he has been very annoyed with Jerome Powell, the head of the Federal Reserve, where he's saying you are not bringing interest rates down quick enough. And as you may be aware, like others, the fact is just because the Federal Reserve then lowers interest rates doesn't mean that those lowering of interest rates is then passed on to mortgage and loans within Main Street, within America, which is then another subject. But it is about control, and he passionately is for the people. Now, you say how much of an effect with what he's got on his plate. If there's anyone that is able to spin a lot of plates all at the same time presidentially, that is definitely, in my opinion, that's definitely Donald J. Trump. Unfortunately, the previous President Biden didn't even maybe know what time of day it is, but unfortunately could not do that. Trump then comes in with all his business acumen. Does he get things right all the time? No. But the number one thing is to say this, is that he's passionate about the US, that he is president of, and he's also passionate about relationships. He understands business, and he also gets annoyed when it seems that there may be unfairness within people that are holding certain positions. On the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell will be there until 2026. So the accusation again is already Trump is trying to seek a way to actually control and influence the board with other board members that he has relationships of. Well, all of this is going to play out. And at the end of the day, there is a lot to tackle for him, a lot to tackle in regard to the America economically, etc. And he will go for that on full bore, and that's my personal opinion, because he's turning around saying, I am the president of the United States, I'm trying to turn things around.
Okay, Mr. Sutherland, you also raised a point about how there could be a possible narrative that Donald Trump will have to fight as well, is that he wants to put in places of power people that he trusts, but at the same time, is that somewhere going to harm him domestically? Is that a narrative that he's already having to fight amongst the American public?
Well, the other thing is that people have to then do a deep dive historically to then look at the history of the Federal Reserve and how that is being formed and how that wields power. Because to some, they then create banking crises, they then create depressions, etc. So that I would encourage people to go and have a look at. Yes, you are right. That could be the accusation where people have done it, always putting all his friends there. He wants to put people in that can actually do the job, e.g., that rare word that we need to turn back to in regard to putting people in power on merit. And if you look at the Cook, who wrote a letter and said, "You're fired," in the classic Donald Trump way, from The Apprentice, is to turn around and look at her record. What is the business acumen of that particular lady? What business experience has she had? Has she only been in academia, etc.? These kind of things also annoy Donald Trump, as it would frankly annoy many of us in our own respective countries. They will accuse him of that of that to be sure, because of the political opposition that is then against him, because he is turning around and saying, I believe in private enterprise. I believe in people being able to start up businesses and be in charge of their own life. And also he is passionate against disbelieving, understandably, in socialism, which is not the American and traditional way of America and what it stands for. Dominica.
Okay, Ms. Sutherland, stay on with us as we shift our focus to news coming in from France. The French far right has ruled out